The vibration cut through the investor presentation at 2:47 p.m. 23 faces on my screen, dialed in from Tokyo, discussing a $400 million acquisition. My phone, face up on the desk, lit with a preview. My stomach dropped to the floor. I waited 5 full seconds, my expression neutral, before tapping the microphone icon to mute myself. My fingers moved mechanically over the keyboard. Have fun. I sent it, then placed the phone back down, screen dark. The lead investor's voice filtered through my headphones. Regulatory hurdles in Q1, but we see a clear path. I nodded, but my mind was elsewhere. Rosewood Bistro. The name alone summoned a cascade of memories in crystal clarity. Not just a trendy downtown spot. It was our family stage. My graduation dinner. Dad's retirement toast, his voice thick with emotion. Patricia squealing, holding up her left hand, the diamond catching the light. Every milestone for the last 3 years had been framed by its dark wood and soft lighting. And now it was the venue for my formal dismissal. Miss Carter. The voice was insistent. Your analysis on the proposed timeline? I unmuted. The timeline is aggressive but achievable, I heard myself say, my voice cool and assured. Provided due diligence wraps by the 15th, a year-end close is viable. I'll have my team send over the revised schedule. The words were correct, professional, and utterly automatic. The real me was still staring at those 2 words, family only. When the call disconnected, silence swallowed my corner office on the 38th floor. The Chicago skyline sprawled beneath a steel-gray November sky. At 32, I, Abigail Carter, had built an empire of 47 restaurants. I commanded respect in boardrooms from New York to Tokyo. Yet, with one text message, my family had reduced me to an outsider. The CEO without a chair at the table. The irony was a physical ache. I pressed the intercom. Amy, come in, please. My assistant appeared, a picture of ready efficiency. What do you need, Abigail? Rosewood Bistro. I want everything. Full financials, ownership history, property deeds, any debt, any liens. The whole story. Consider it a potential acquisition target. The lie was smooth. How fast? She didn't blink. 1 hour. Perfect. Alone again, I opened the family group chat, scrolling back through the fossil record of our disintegration. It began in August, a missed birthday party for my nephew Luke. I was in Seattle, finalizing the purchase of a farm-to-table chain. My absence to them was a choice against family. Patricia's lengthy text about commitment and what really matters still sat there, a permanent indictment. Then September, my cousin's wedding. An urgent call from London investors pulled me away. Dad found me in the parking lot, his tuxedo looking uncomfortable. When are you going to stop playing this game, Abigail? He'd asked, his voice low. It's time to be a person, not just a CEO. But October was the breaking point. A simple family dinner that curdled when my brother Marcus cleared his throat. The mortgage, it's getting away from us. His eyes fixed on me, a silent plea. I offered to sit down with them, to go over their spending, to build a real plan. That's when he blew up. We don't need a spreadsheet, Abigail. We need help. What does that mean, Marcus? It means money, he'd shouted. The kind you have. I tried to explain that a check was a temporary fix, not a solution. He'd shoved his chair back, storming out. Patricia followed, throwing a devastated look over her shoulder. You've changed. The money, it's made you cold. Dad remained, a sad monument at the head of the table. Your mother and I, we don't recognize you anymore. You care about the bottom line, not your blood. For 6 weeks after that, a glacial politeness settled over us. Terse texts about logistics. No calls. No invites. I was quietly, thoroughly, edited out of the narrative until today's message made the edit permanent. Family only. The sentence was a verdict. And as I watched the city lights begin to wink on in the gathering dusk, a slow, fierce heat began to burn away the hurt. If they wanted to redefine the family circle, I would redraw the map entirely. Amy's knock was precise, at 4 p.m. on the dot. She entered, holding a concise but weighty folder. The dossier on Rosewood Bistro, she said, placing it before me. Her delivery was clinical. Owner, Peter Chin. 72. Wants to retire to Sarasota. Has been marketing the property for 6 months. Asking price, $2.3 million. The business is profitable, but modestly. A solid workhorse, not a show pony. She paused, anticipating my next question. The balance sheet is clean. No outstanding liens, no hidden debt. He owns the building outright. There have been 2 serious offers, both collapsed. One from a syndicate that lost its funding, another from a dentist who romanticized the restaurant life until he saw the grease traps. I opened the folder. Spreadsheets, tax returns, property surveys. The numbers told a story of quiet, consistent success. It was, as Amy implied, a perfect, unglamorous fit for my group. Prime real estate. A loyal, affluent clientele. A reputation built on decades of service, not fleeting trends. The final piece of my impersonal puzzle. Reach out to Peter Chin, I said, closing the folder. Tell him Carter Hospitality Group is making an offer. Amy waited, pen poised over her notebook. Terms. Full ask. Cash. We close tomorrow morning. Her pen froze. Tomorrow is a federal holiday, Abigail. The wire systems. I'll handle the financing personally, I said, cutting off the logistical objection. The premium for speed comes from my account. Can you get him on the phone today? A flicker of professional challenge lit in her eyes. I'll get him. By 5:30 p.m., the miracle was arranged. Peter Chin's voice, when it came on the line, was weathered but warm, tinged with the keen interest of a man tired of waiting. Miss Carter, your assistant said you have an interest in my little place. I do, Mr. Chin. I'm prepared to offer your full asking price. $2.3 million. Cash payment. I'd like to close tomorrow morning. The silence on the line was thoughtful. Tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I'm aware. I'll add a $200,000 premium for the expedited timeline. $2.5 million total. All cash. Another pause, longer this time. That is a significant premium. May I ask what inspires such urgency? I looked out at the darkening skyline. Let's say the restaurant holds a certain personal significance. I need the keys in my hand by tomorrow evening. I could almost hear his smile through the phone. Personal significance. I understand that kind of weight. I need to speak with my attorney. Mine is already drafting the papers. We can meet at his offices tonight. The conference room at my lawyer's firm at 8 p.m. smelled of sharp coffee and earnest money. Peter Chin was there with his counsel, a man who looked as tired of the process as his client. Chin himself was slender, with wise eyes that missed nothing. As we reviewed the final purchase agreement, he studied me over the top of his glasses. A question, if I may, he said, his voice gentle. You could have any restaurant in this city. Why mine? It's a good business, but not a crown jewel. It fits a strategic need, I replied, the practiced corporate line ready. But his gaze was too knowing. I set my pen down. And the timing is symbolically important. He leaned back, folding his hands. I've been in business for 47 years. I know the difference between a strategic purchase and a personal one. This feels personal. I met his eyes. Mr. Chin, have you ever been uninvited from a table that meant everything to you? A slow, understanding nod. More than once. In this business and in life. It feels like a punch in the chest. Then it burns. Yes, I said, the word quiet in the hushed room. It burns. He smiled then, a genuine expression that crinkled the corners of his eyes. Then I hope my restaurant gives you the warmth you're looking for. And perhaps a better table. We signed the final documents at 9:13 p.m. The transfer was immediate. By 10 p.m., the digital deed was recorded. Rosewood Bistro, with all its memories and its mahogany bar and its quiet reputation, was mine. I arrived at Rosewood Bistro at 6 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning. The kitchen was already a symphony of controlled chaos, the air rich with the scent of roasting bones and herbs. Chef Antoine Dubois, a man built like a barrel and just as solid, looked up from his clipboard, his surprise evident. Miss Carter. We were not expecting an inspection today, he said, his voice a low rumble. It's not an inspection, Antoine. There's been a change. As of last night, I am the new owner. His professional composure slipped for just a second. Pardon. I've purchased the restaurant from Mr. Chin. Your jobs, your pay, your kitchen hierarchy, none of that changes. You report to the same people. The only difference is that the ultimate signature on your checks is now mine, and I will be observing operations closely. Starting today. I let that settle. There is one specific instruction for tonight. Table 12 in the Oak Room. I want it set for 8 guests, but only 7 chairs. Antoine's brow furrowed deeply. 7 chairs for 8 settings? Exactly. And I want the menu for that table to be exceptional. The kind of meal that defines an evening. Can you do that? He straightened, the challenge clearing the confusion from his face. Of course. It will be memorable. By noon, my plan was in motion. I hired a signage company at a holiday triple rate, and by 3 p.m., a tasteful, gilded plaque was installed in the window, now part of Carter Hospitality Group. I also hired a discreet photographer. This wasn't for a press release or a petty keepsake, it was documentation. A record of the moment a line was drawn. At 6 p.m., having changed into a sheath of black silk that meant business, I dismissed the host. I'll be greeting this particular party myself. They arrived at 7 on the dot, a portrait of familial anticipation. Dad in his slightly too tight holiday suit. Mom touching her heirloom pearls, a nervous habit. Patricia in designer burgundy, Marcus with Kathy and their 2 children, their faces glowing with the promise of a tradition upheld, simpler, now, with the complicating element removed. Dad saw me first. His festive smile dissolved into bewilderment. Abigail? What are you doing here? Working, I said, my voice all polished hospitality. Welcome to Rosewood Bistro. Do you have a reservation? Working, he echoed, his voice thin. What does that mean? Patricia surged forward, her smile now a tight line. Abigail, we were very clear. This is for family. You can't just. I'm not here as a guest, I interjected, my tone never wavering. I'm here as the proprietor. The silence that fell was dense enough to stifle the clatter from the kitchen. Nearby diners paused, forks hovering. Marcus found his voice a scoffing sound. What are you talking about? I gestured gracefully toward the new plaque in the window, catching the light. As of last night, I purchased this restaurant. The deal closed this morning. Mom's hand flew to her pearls. You bought it. A cash transaction, I confirmed. Dad stared, his expression one of pure, uncomprehending shock. Why on earth would you do that? Because yesterday I said, the pleasant mask still firmly in place, I received a text specifying the guest list for tonight. My name was notably absent. I decided if I couldn't join the dinner, I would at least provide the venue. Now you do have a reservation. Table 12. Right this way. I led the silent procession to the Oak Room. The table was a masterpiece of linen, crystal, and polished silver, lit by the warm dance of candlelight. Place settings for 8. Only 7 chairs. Patricia's eyes darted around the table, counting. Where's the 8th chair? There isn't one, I replied. You said family only. The math seemed straightforward. They stood there, a group of beautifully dressed mannequins, unsure of the script. Please, I urged. My hand indicating the seats. Make yourselves comfortable. Chef Dubois has prepared a tasting menu in your honor. As they slowly, awkwardly took their assigned places, I remained standing at the head of the table, where the 8th chair should have been. Before the amuse-bouche arrives, I began, you might appreciate some context about your dining environment this evening. Rosewood Bistro was founded in 1987 by Peter Chin, who arrived in Chicago with $200 and a recipe for pho. He built this into an institution with a 22% net profit margin. We employ 37 people, all of whom are keeping their positions. Marcus looked down into his water glass as if seeking refuge. Okay, we get it. You're a big deal. You don't have to lecture us. On the contrary, I said, my calm fracturing just enough to let the steel beneath show. I do. Because for months, you have treated my success as a character flaw. As if building something disqualifies me from belonging at this table. Mom's voice was a whisper. That's not true, Abigail. Isn't it? My gaze swept over each of them. When was the last time any of you asked a question about my work that wasn't a prelude to a criticism or a request for money? When did you ever ask about the building of it, rather than just tallying the result? Patricia's eyes remained fixed on her menu, as if the French descriptions offered an escape. Your world, it's just not relatable to us, Abigail. Not everyone can buy a restaurant on a whim, Marcus added, his voice tight. You're absolutely right, I said, my tone level. Not everyone can. Would you like to know why I can? The question hung in the candlelit air, unanswered. Because when I was 17, I spent my weekends and summers up to my elbows in greasy water, washing dishes at the Gilded Fork. I learned every station from the inside: hostess, waitress, bartender, the sauté line during the dinner rush. After graduation, I poured every dollar I'd saved into a single, beat-up food truck. For 2 years, I lived in that truck. 18-hour days. 7-day weeks. My diet was whatever sandwich didn't sell. That's how I bought my first cafe. We know the highlights, Marcus muttered, not meeting my eyes. Do you? I asked, my voice sharpening. Do you know how I turned that single truck into an enterprise worth $200 million? Kathy's soft intake of breath was the only sound. You never asked about the nights I slept on the office floor, or the first deal that collapsed and nearly broke me, or the months of ramen because every spare penny was fuel for the next payroll. You never inquired about the people who guided me, the failures that taught me more than any success, or the tiny, daily victories that kept me from quitting. You just saw the end result and decided it made me alien. Abigail, Dad started, his voice worn thin. We are proud, he offered, but the words sounded hollow, an old script. Are you? I didn't blink. 6 weeks ago, when Marcus said he was drowning, I offered a lifeline. Not a blank check, but a plan. A partnership. Do you recall your exact response, Marcus? He shifted in his chair, the fine fabric rustling. I said we didn't need a lecture. You said, you don't get real problems anymore. You just got lucky. The money made you cold. You weren't angry. You were humiliated. Ashamed that your little sister had navigated a storm you were drowning in. So you rejected the life raft and blamed the person throwing it. The timing was impeccable. Chef Antoine entered, balancing 7 bowls of velvety pumpkin soup, each garnished with a gossamer swirl of truffle oil. He placed them with a sommelier's precision, his glance toward me a mix of professional curiosity and silent solidarity. Thank you, Antoine. My compliments to the kitchen. His exit restored a fragile, brittle quiet. Mom grasped at the first neutral thought. It really is a beautiful place. It is, I agreed. Peter Chin told me last night that for decades, this restaurant was his family. Then he realized family is a choice. It's the people who champion your journey, not the ones who resent the destination. We don't resent you, Patricia insisted, her voice strained. Don't you? When I bought the apartment on Lakeshore, your comment, Patricia. Her cheeks flushed. You called it ostentatious. And Marcus, when I hired Amy, you said I was building an echo chamber. Dad, when my passport started filling up, you warned me I was forgetting where I came from. And when I offered Marcus not a handout, but a hand up, the collective verdict was clear. The money changed her. You distilled my entire life, my work, my choices, down to a corrupting currency. That's an unfair simplification, Patricia said. Is it? Then answer this. Where am I going when I leave here tonight? I scanned their faces, met with blank confusion and avoidant glances. For the past 8 Thanksgivings, I've spent my evenings at West Memorial Hospital, serving holiday meals to patients who have nowhere else to go. Did that ever come up? Does anyone know about the Carter Culinary Scholarship at our old high school? Or the revolving fund that helps my line cooks open their own spots? Or that I've signed off on 6 mortgage down payments for employees who became family? The silence this time was profound, a chasm of everything unsaid and unasked. You see a ledger where I see a life. You decided my success was a wall. You never once knocked to see if there was a door. The main course arrived as a silent rebuke to the discord, herb-crusted rack of lamb, rosy and perfect, with a mosaic of roasted autumn vegetables. Chef Antoine presented it with a funereal solemnity before retreating, leaving the weight of the meal behind. Abigail. Dad's voice broke the silence, strained. What is it you're after? What do you need from us? A simple thing, I said. To look at me and see me. Not a symbol of greed, not a problem to be managed. The person. And if we can't see past what we've already decided? Marcus asked, his defiance brittle. Then this, I gestured around the beautiful, painful room, will be a fitting final memory. Your last supper at Rosewood Bistro. Mom's fork clinked softly against her plate. Last? Don't say that. I won't audition for a role in this family anymore. I won't atone for accomplishments you've decided are sins. I moved to the window, my back to them. The main dining room hummed with a warmth that felt galaxies away. Clinking glasses, genuine laughter, the easy touch of a hand on a shoulder. A tableau of what I'd been exiled from. The irony is, I said, watching a man help his elderly mother with her chair, I bought this place to armor myself. To show your exclusion couldn't touch me. But watching real families in here, it just made me feel foolish. I turned to face them. I don't want to be someone who makes spiteful purchases. I don't want to be a daughter who needs a grand, theatrical proof of her value. I want to be in a family where a win for one isn't a loss for another. Where the score isn't kept in decimal points. Patricia was crying openly now, dark tracks marring her perfect makeup. We're sorry, Abigail. It was never supposed to be like this. I know, I said, and for the first time, my voice softened. But it is. So now you choose what this becomes. Choose how? Dad asked, his shoulders slumped. Finish this incredible meal Antoine made for you. Savor it. Then go home. And decide, do you want your daughter and sister in your lives? Or is the bitterness over my career and my bank account more important than the person attached to them? Marcus looked up, his eyes searching. And if we choose you? Then you call me. Not for a loan. Not to critique my life. You call to ask how my day was. To tell me about yours. To start the long, hard work of rebuilding a bridge we all burned. I walked toward the oak-paneled door, my hand on the brass knob. I paused, not looking back. One more thing, Marcus. I did review your finances after our fight. Your mortgage isn't unmanageable because your salary is too small. It's because your discretionary spending, dining out, weekends away, shopping averages $4,000 a month. The offer to build a realistic budget together remains open. No strings. A stunned silence. How could you possibly? I read spreadsheets for a living, I said, finally glancing over my shoulder. It's how I built this. It's also how I can help, if you ever want it. I left them then, surrounded by uneaten elegance and a silence louder than any argument. In the kitchen's organized heat, I found Antoine. How was the service for table 12? He asked, his keen eyes missing nothing. Impeccable, chef. Thank you. Now, I have another request. I need 7 complete Thanksgiving dinners to go. Turkey, traditional stuffing, cranberry, mashed potatoes, greens. The classic tableau. Can you have them packed and ready in 30 minutes? He nodded, already mentally rearranging his kitchen's flow. Of course. May I ask the occasion? For some people, I said, whose Thanksgiving is about to take an unexpected turn for the better. The sterile, bright hallway of West Memorial Hospital was a world away from the dim warmth of Rosewood Bistro. I carried the 7 insulated bags, each containing a feast, feeling the weight shift from symbolic to tangible. In room 302, Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes, dull with pain medication, lit up as I unpacked the containers. The scent of rosemary and roast turkey cut through the antiseptic air. This isn't hospital food, she whispered. No, I said, arranging it on her tray. It's from Rosewood Bistro. Happy Thanksgiving. Her frail hand patted mine. You've brought a piece of the world in here. In room 315, Mr. Kim, a former food critic according to his chart, stared at the offering as I named the chef. Antoine Dubois? A tear escaped, tracing a path down his weathered cheek. His soup à l'oignon. I reviewed it in '99. Gave him 3 stars. To think he'd cook for me now. He looked at me, really looked. This is an act of great kindness. By 10 p.m., the bags were empty, distributed to patients whose solitude was momentarily filled by a surprise of flavor and care. The conversations were brief, but they were real, unburdened by history or expectation. As I walked back to my car in the crisp night air, my phone vibrated. A single text from Dad. The meal was exquisite. The talk was the hardest we've ever had. Is there a path back? I stood under a street lamp, my breath forming a small cloud. My thumbs moved over the screen. Sunday, 7 p.m. My apartment. I'm cooking. The reply was almost immediate. You cook? I've acquired many skills. Most don't have a price tag. We'll be there. 3 months later, Sunday dinners in my penthouse were a fixed point on our calendars. The conversations were not always easy. Old wounds occasionally throbbed, assumptions had to be gently dismantled. But we persisted. We talked about Marcus's anxiety over career stagnation, not just his bills. Patricia confessed her envy of my purpose, and we began discussing a potential marketing role where she could build something for herself, not just admire what I had built. Mom and Dad asked questions, tentatively at first, then with genuine curiosity, about my work, and in December, they joined me at West Memorial, their hands steady as they plated meals for others, their eyes meeting mine with a new understanding. Rosewood Bistro, under Carter Hospitality Group, saw its revenue increase by 15%. We refined the wine list, expanded the private dining, but never touched Antoine's core menu or the soul of the place. Peter chin-checked in occasionally. His pride was evident. It remained a thriving business, a jewel in the corporate crown. Yet its greater value was personal. It became our neutral ground, the place where we learned to celebrate without competition. My success was no longer a dividing line, but a shared vantage point. Every birthday or anniversary we celebrated there, I'd glance at the entrance where I'd once stood, armored in silk and fury. I had purchased the restaurant as the ultimate rebuttal, a weapon of exclusion. But in a twist I never foresaw, it became our most reliable meeting place, the solid ground we all agreed upon. The transaction had been one of the most impulsive of my career. The return on investment, however, was measured in none of the metrics I was taught to track. It was counted in recovered laughter across a table, in difficult questions finally asked, in the quiet peace of being seen, finally, for who I was. The ledger of my life would always show the acquisition of Rosewood Bistro as a business decision. But the truth, the deeper balance, was personal. Sometimes the most profitable deal is the one that closes a rift, not just a sale.